Yo, I meant to check this out this morning. They finally showed off gameplay of the Texas Chainsaw game.
This is Stuart Kimball.
It's time to see if it's dog shit or like okay.
Is one of a very small number of studios
Or
to
even
work
good.
on a second separate franchise.
I don't know if
within
it'll
the
reach
genre.
great,
The
amazing,
studio
or
moving from the
spectacular.
misty Camp Crystal
I don't
Lake
know.
to the oppressive Texas heat is an
I don't
undertaking
see it,
that
but
goes
maybe.
beyond setting and scenery. While some lessons can be applied directly from one game to another, a lot more don't translate so easily despite their broad strokes being similar. GameSpot recently got to go hands-on with next year's horror game and speak to the team about what it takes to bring this specific series to video games, what it's like to become a go-to team for horror adaptations, and how they ensure players appreciate playing as more than just the series' mass-marketed monster. With Friday the 13th, there's one killer. With Texas Chainsaw, you're dealing with a whole family. The game plays in 4v3 matches where 4 victims, notably not named survivors but instead victims, awaken already ensnared by the slaughter family that consists of the hitchhiker, the cook, and of course, Leatherface himself. In the 50 years since the original Tobe Hooper movie shocked audiences with its unflinching portrayals of violence, Leatherface has outgrown his own series in a way, partly due to marketing decisions, Keltner believes. As slashers blew up in the 1980s, Leatherface had become the series' mascot, its face of evil who could stand tall next to Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, and the rest. But the original movie was much more focused on the family as a whole. So, in being a recreation of sorts of that 1974 film, the game does this.
I'd say
too.
it wasn't
To match
until like
that
the
film, you gotta have 3
third
family
movie
members
where they
running
started
around
paying
constantly
attention
on you, making you feel
to just
uncomfortable.
the
Might this
Chainsaw
annoy
Man
some players
himself.
who really just want to be Leatherface? After playing it, I think not. Each killer has their own unique skill set, and they'll need to work together to kill off the foursome of victims and prevent anyone from escaping. Playing as 2 of them, I enjoyed them in different ways thanks to how they bring crucial abilities to the objective. The hitchhiker is more nimble, so he can crawl through small spaces and set reusable traps. Like bear traps made partly of bone that can be placed in front of generators the victims will be desperate to deactivate. The cook is a little slower and older, but he can listen closely and pinpoint the survivors' locations even when they're being very quiet. Leatherface likely needs no introduction, but his intimidating chainsaw also manages to destroy obstacles that would give victims some breathing room, such as clusters of furniture in a hallway or even locked doors. There's also a 4th non-playable family character, the rocking chair-bound grandpa, who villains can feed blood from victims and enjoy his sonar-like perks, though victims can sneak into his room and decommission the immobile old man. There's a difference in balancing, which is always a tricky word to talk about when you're mentioning asymmetrical horror, Keltner said. It's not supposed to be balanced, that's the definition of asymmetric, right? But when you have 3 villains running around, what it creates is a far more diverse gameplay and replayability. In Friday the 13th, if Jason shows up and he's a very
unique,
aggressive, brutal, in-your-face player, then you kind of get an idea of how the match is going to kind of play out.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, you may have 2 aggressive players and then maybe one that's playing a little more cheeky, a little bit more stealthily, or however they want to play. And that formula changes each time because it's all human-driven.
Bro, the way he came out the barn with his weapon just looked goofy. Man coming out here to get his reward. He came rolling
Whereas
out.
in this, you may have 2 aggressive players and then maybe one that's playing a little more cheeky, a little bit more stealthily, or however they want to play.
Just
and that
came
formula
waddling
changes
out.
each time because it's all human-driven. We give you the tools, we give you the mechanics, the abilities to play the ways you want to play, and that makes for a rich type of gameplay.
That is an
every time
interesting
reset
part.
and everyone picks different roles, you feel that it
There's,
plays
like,
a
interesting
different game. This novel approach to the genre,
plays
giving the killers nearly as many players as the victims,
be
demands
going
victims
on.
who feel somewhat empowered as well. But because it's Texas Chainsaw
you can fight
Massacre,
back.
this will never be a power fantasy. On the map I played, getting off the property was the only win scenario. There are no cops to call, and Tommy Jarvis isn't going to show up with his shotgun like he does on the campgrounds of Gunn's past effort. Each victim has
you
their
can
own
only
unique
escape
ability,
like DVD.
however, and like the killers, it's the tactical confluence of all these abilities that will lead to success. You'll need Connie's ability to instantly open locked doors, thus bypassing the skill check minigame, just as much as you'll need Leland's ability to lower his shoulder and knock
There he
villains
is
off their
again.
feet, buying the group some time. Both
I like
killers
his little
and victims
shuffle.
have lengthy skill trees too. It seems, though I wasn't able to explore them in detail during my hour or so with the game. As usual in this genre, the give and take of deciding when to save an ally versus when to write them off as dead weight makes the Texas Chainsaw Massacre an interesting social experiment on top of its intentions of being a creepy multiplayer game. The map is full of details that serve the gameplay for both teams without breaking the illusion that you're in a wretched, hopeless place. Gunn wants players to feel like they're in the movie themselves, so the ample number of locked doors,
She just went
small
walking
crevices
through that.
used for sneaking, darkened corners in the grotesque basement,
crazy.
and fast evaporating escape routes manage to keep the house grounded in reality without it feeling too video gamey. My favorite map details are the open wells outside. The outdoor space is pretty vast on the 1 of 3 announced maps I played, but it's not wasted space. When you're being chased for your life, limping just out of the reach of an assailant, perhaps through the sunflowers or around the shed, you can decide to quickly jump down into a well, but it's no salvation. It leads you back into the basement, otherwise known as Leatherface's lair. The decision to escape to momentary safety by heading back inside the house is truly the stuff of horror movies. Rather than yell at the screen when the protagonist does something foolish, here you'll realize how necessary such a maneuver.
This game kind of seems like Evil Dead in the sense that it has some unique gameplay features to it that haven't really been done. But I don't know about the replayability.
Sometimes can be.
Looks
The
kinda
labyrinthine
sketch.
Slaughter family household was reborn in intricate detail. As a horror buff, I admit I found it mesmerizing to move around that space. We can't see all aspects of the house so easily in the movie, since usually people are running and screaming through each section of it, so the team has rather painstakingly pored over the aged film frame by frame to ensure the game's
It looks pretty
recreation of
cool.
that space is authentic. The other day, I told developers, hey, I just saw approximately like 4 frames of the film. There's a light switch at the top of the stairs in this location. Executive producer Ismail Vikins told me. And we'll go ahead and we throw that in there. The team is comprised of horror nerds, Keltner added, who described at great lengths to
That's
which
cool.
Gunn included the faithful chainsaw audio. We located the
I mean, it
make,
looks like it. They
model,
really
and
did justice on the layout of the house, and I mean, they already showed this off months ago, and I thought this looked really good. Like, they really tried to make it look like the OG house in the beginning.
added, who described at great lengths to which Gunn included the faithful chainsaw audio. We located the make, model, and year of the Powlin chainsaw, and we found 2 or 3 of those, got parts, rebuilt it, got it running, and then captured all the sound of that exact saw.
Damn.
We hired Watson Wu, who is a world-renowned sound effects and Foley artist, and we're assured that we got the exact sound of that saw. These small touches are part of why Gunn has been in contact with around a dozen different horror franchise rights holders, Keltner revealed. Sometimes it's like one movie studio that comes to me and they send me a PDF that has like 60-something IPs on it. And
Yeah,
they're
man, that is
like,
how-
pick one. And I'm like, that's not how this works.
Jump out the
Adding that the
window.
team is meticulous with whom it collaborates, seeking partners who both understand video games and will be appropriately generous with the way that a team can use the IP. We have seen more and more of these asymmetrical horror games come to the market, but
Yeah.
it's not how Gunn Interactive is as a studio. We're highly selective on who we choose to work with and what games we want to bring to the market, and they kind of have to pass the sniff test here internally. Noticing and appreciating the game's finer details that have helped grow Gunn into a horror name brand in a short time span will take a lot more playing than I've had so far. And no doubt more playtime will likely reveal pain points as well. But it's worth noting that while Friday the 13th was a fun, but oftentimes janky game, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre already feels much smoother with better controlling characters, more digestible objectives in UI, stronger animation work, and a much more detailed landscape. It all comes together thanks to the authenticity that I expect will excite fans like me who are always seeking new experiences in video game horror, a somehow still underserved genre. The first
Yeah.
time I saw that infamous
I'm
metal
interested
door-
to play this because I'm pretty like big into horror movies, honestly. This looks like it'd be a pretty fun game to play for a little bit, like a little bit unique too. Just kind of like something new, something fun. Just try it out. It'd be fun to play. Like even Evil Dead, I wanted to play, and that game's not even that massive. But whenever games like this come out, I'm always interested to see them. Because it seems like they want to make them like unique and like their own game and good, but there's yet to be one that like sticks around that's like, yeah, this is it. And I feel like it's partially because of Dead by Daylight's existence. Because like this has an escape thing too. And in a way, so does Friday the 13th, but you can fight back and shit. I don't know, it's just like, which one
Before
stands the
red wall
test time of
lined with animal
replayability?
skulls, I immediately felt
Maybe
like
this
I
one.
knew this place that was, as a player, totally new to me. Faithful video game adaptations of other visual media can uniquely immerse players who bring with them a level of familiarity, And for me today, that means an eagerness to get back into that house despite knowing the horrors that wait within it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I keep an eye out on it. Pretty much like I did with Evil Dead. I've still never got to play Evil Dead. So I doubt I'll get to play this one for a while, but there are two games I'll keep an eye on for sure.